if I was younger then, and if Marvin and I knew better, I would analyze the whole situation and make a different film. You know, didn't know Singapore, and now that I know it, I don't know. This is you have to get a local writer to get a story out of it. I mean, unless you're just doing a James Bond impression of all the new buildings.
Well, while you're talking about James Bond, that's one issue that I've always been thinking about, because you made this in the same year as a very major James Bond film. Did you ever watch James Bond films? Did you ever think about them while you were making Wits End?
No, I did not. I tried to do something different, and you got to realize the pressure was so. There was no time to think. Marvin will vouch for that. We didn't have time to think. We had Michel Renaud turning the generator off because we were using too much gas, you know. And there's scenes with Marvin, maybe not, with Tom Keener and Janet Wood, where Keener was complaining about nudity, and he wanted Janet Wood to be protected, and she was concerned about the nudity. And time came to shoot. Janet was playing cards, practically nude, with a robot, with the Malay crew, and Tom Keener came all bundled up with a scarf, you know, pajama pants. Said, "I want the sets cleared. I want to protect this young girl here," you know. So he was more concerned with the nudity than we were. He was a bit uptight and straight-laced, you know. I think that he was worried about me whipping Vicky Racimo in one act, and we didn't need him. We sent him out to dinner, and I had tried her up. And he said, "You're whipping the poor girl." So when we heard his car come back, we tied her up again, and I pretended, Jesus, I've been whipping her for 3 hours, you know. And said, "Tom, you may have to go out again until we get the scene right." And he bought it and exploded, you know. Unfortunately, he lost his leg due to thrombosis, and he lost his leg up to the hip, and he's in, you know, he doesn't, it's almost impossible to walk with a prosthesis. He doesn't want to, so he's a recluse in Hollywood now.
Well, I don't think that can be attributed to Wits End. And,
no, I'm sorry, I digest from that,
but Janet
Wood, who knows, maybe Angelique Benidron died.
Yeah, but before she died, she managed to appear in several episodes of Star Trek, and actually made money signing a signature at Star Trek conventions. Did you know?
Oh yes, she also had a great career in porn. Yeah. And there's a bar called Double Down on 2nd Avenue that still plays her porn films behind the bar. Which, you do that in New York. But it's amazing. I don't know. Tom Keener succeeded somewhat as an actor. But I really look upon it fondly. But we could have done so much better, you know. If I had spent time in Singapore and didn't rush into the production, and I would have written a different script, if there was a script to be written, you know. But it's an amazing. I returned to Singapore a couple of years later, and the whole country changed. It became all modern and all high rises, and it was an entirely different scene. I guess there are some little cul-de-sacs where there's little seedy buildings left, but not according to the New York Times, was saying that the millionaires are buying all those buildings up and converting them into townhouses. They're very popular now. But the best thing about it is I became friendly with Marvin and had many adventures with him in Asia and in New York afterwards.
Well, I think perhaps we could open it up for questions now. Who has a question for one of the panelists?
Yes. Did the movie ever recoup its expenses?
Oh, maybe Marvin, would you like to answer? Did the movie ever recoup its expenses?
No.
But of course, if you buy a DVD today, it'll make the small compensation for the trials and tribulations that this movie's been through. And there's an added feature that there's a voice track that Joel Reed gives an in-depth commentary while the movie is playing, and gives you further insights into Singapore and filmmaking.
I don't think anybody should care about the rating on the film. I think it's very tame now compared with in New York, the daytime soap operas are much more raunchier than that film, you know. So
the distribution history of this film then is very complex, isn't it? Could you maybe just?
Yeah, it's super complex, and I think that's one of the reasons why the film, in some ways, was kind of lost, because people didn't even know when it was made. You know, it was like if you looked it up on the internet, which was obviously the place you would go to find out about it, the dates that I would see would be like 1971, 1975, 1980. So there were different dates attributed to it when it came out on VHS tape, when Troma put it out, when it was released originally under various different titles. You know, there were about 3 different titles for the film. GI Executioner was one of the last titles, which Troma gave it, and the story about how they got it is in Marvin's book, so we shouldn't give everything away. But I think that complicated distribution life that it had under different titles and sort of appearing at different times in different years meant that, you know, when I was doing research into films made in Singapore, I kind of skipped over it because I couldn't really pin it down and had no idea that it was made in 1969. I thought it was made in maybe the early 80s even. So, you know, it was when I finally saw it and realized what it was kind of amazing.
We caught one distributor was stealing all the money, and he said it wasn't selling. It was Joe Green, he died, and he said it was making like $20 a month. And inadvertently, he put all the finance records when he sent, you know, in an envelope, and there was a whole bunch of listings that we never got paid for. And he said, "That's a mistake. I never collected those checks from Wits End." So we sued him, and we got the picture back. But Marvin's brother sold it to Troma for very little money. I think Marvin's brother at the time needed some quick cash, and Troma doesn't really own it now. But you know, they're selling more Wits Ends at shows when I'm there, more than they're selling Bloodsucking Freaks, which has done $2.5 million so far. And they actually ran out of Wits End DVDs in their storehouse. I have to get some more, you know. So.
But we still have them here.
Well, we still have some here, Joel.
Yeah,
Do we have another question,
Joel? I'll sell them. Actually, what you should do is dub this in a strange foreign language and change the story. And it'll be a very exotic film. Maybe you can servo crochet.
Any other questions?
My movie was The Night of the Zombies, and was released in Zombie War Games in Germany, and they changed the whole story. They dubbed it into German, and they made it into a story about a zombie war game, and it's selling very well. I actually got a check for $600 from the last month, and a call from Germany from another guy that wanted to do this. In fact, well, that's the problem. We have to get the. There's probably some market for it in Europe today, you know. So, you know.
So anyway, Joel, we'll just let the audience see if they want to ask any more questions of you or of...
Okay, I'm over.
Yes.
I do that with my head shrink. I volunteer too much stuff.
It completely lost me on the nuclear secret. There was some reference in the middle to antimatter, you know. But who was the guy?
That was real marijuana the CIA agent was smoking. That was one of the problems too.
Oh, it probably was. Yes.
Where was that?
They had a lot of marijuana. It seemed at that time everybody had marijuana on their coffee table. The government wasn't too concerned about it. They were hanging people for heroin and opium, but others, you know, the marijuana was all over the place. That was the era when if you were a hippie, if you looked like Marty and you arrived in Singapore, they gave you a haircut and a shave and took away your dungarees and put you into you had to put a tie on. They would let you in the country, you know, but they were terrified of long-haired people with guitars. So in the hippie hangout in Singapore, figure out exactly where it was. You can tell the hippies by their close-cropped hair and their
Joel, can you shed any light on the plot? What was antimatter?
Yeah.
Was there a deeper symbolism?
Yeah. Was it a nuclear weapon? Was it antimatter? What did the Red Chinese really have?
I think it was some sort of nuclear the scientists said he was smuggling their nuclear program out of Red China. And that's what it was.
But who appeared in
And
the film?
it was very much like Casablanca. It had a piano play there, like Bradley
Well,
played
it was
the
the
piano.
gangster who
and,
had got hold of the secret and was selling it to the highest bidder.
Oh, okay. That was
Yeah.
the secret he was saying.
If I was smarter at the time, I would have done a spoof of Casablanca, but that's an afterthought. Any more questions? I'm sorry.
Any more questions?
Yeah.
Yes, in the blue t-shirt.
Thank you. I noticed a lot of reference to $20. I'm just curious, was there any particular inside joke going on or something?
One of the questions is that there were a lot of references to $20. Was there some special significance in that?
I think that was the going rate for a low-class hooker in Singapore. Except on Destr Road, it was about $3 very much. By the way, Destr Road is still functioning according to the web.
Yeah, it is.
That was the real cheap prostitute area of Singapore. And I just discovered an article about it on the web. It says it's still running. Maybe somebody can answer that question.
They're nodding.
Yes, it is.
They're nodding. You're right. It still is.
Yeah.
What was that?
Yes. The answer is yes. It still is an active den of iniquity.
It's alive and well.
We're breaking up again. Let me see if I can. I'm going to go to your picture.
Okay.
See if I can hear.
Okay, well, I'll turn off my picture.
I didn't put mine back on. I can't cut your picture off.
But I can
Okay, we got disconnect.
And any questions for any of the other panelists while Joel's reconnecting?
Oh, there's no picture on. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Stand by.
So was there any people who did St. Jack's?
I can barely hear you. That's the problem.
Go ahead with your question. I think we
The
can
question
hear.
was St. Jack's, when they did that, did they reach out to yourselves, given that you had been here and done this?
Were they aware of it?
They weren't.
No, they had no idea.
No, they, as far as they were concerned, when they came, there was no. They weren't even aware of the Malay film industry in Singapore. They felt like they were coming into a country with no film activity whatsoever, and no one seemed to really tell them about it either. So they just kind of, not all of them, but Peter Bogdanovich had no concept of any other filmmaking that was happening. So definitely not. No.
Was Singapore an R&R location then for Vietnam at that time, and would that be why people?
Well, yes, that was the joke about the boat. It was meant to be an R&R destination for GIs.
Oh, okay.
That it was mainly populated with high school students. And I was just wondering, are there any of the high school students who were extras in the film here today?
They also hid their identity.
Yes.
There's a reference to a CIA agent who didn't want to have his identity shown. Is that true?
Is it true?
Was there truly a CIA agent in it? Is that what you're saying?
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, that's probably a reference to Michel, who was reputedly a Belgian mercenary. Maybe, Joel, you can shed some light on that? Joel, you have some theories about Michel's background?
About what background? Could you go slow?
Michel.
The sales?
Michel Renard.
Michel Renard. Was he a
Michel Renard was a friend of Marvin, who Marvin has it in the book. He claimed to be some sort of CIA operative, and that he left. He had money to pay off to Viet Cong, and he buried $2 million in the jungle, which he hoped to retrieve, and that his sister was a nun in the Belgian Congo, and I understand he was very wealthy. In fact, when he came here, he stayed at very good hotels, and he gave me $3,000 cash bonus because he felt that I deserved it. And he had a very, his command of the English was decipherable. He had sort of a Belgian, very steep Belgian accent, and would talk like this through it out. And he was singing this song, and I thought it was a Malay song because I heard Malay in there. He says, "No, it's Rose of Malaya," you know. But he was a creature in himself. I don't know if Marvin remembers that. Michelle, we sent him to the airport to pick up Vicky Racimo, and somewhere in the ride back he got engaged to her. And the next day he bought her the huge diamond, but it didn't last, you know. But he was a character in himself, telling us about all his adventures as a professional killer. And Marvin could fill you in on him because he's been Marvin's friend for years.
So Marvin, was he really a CIA agent? Probably not.
You should tell him about Mark Lewis, our casting director. I guess he's not with us anymore, who lived in the suburbs of Singapore and was trying to raise turkeys. Not very successfully. He was a Tamil American guy, a tiny guy. He's in the movie, and he had all these businesses and answering machines in his house, you know, and all his everything that he suggested me doing sounded completely ridiculous to me. I don't think turkeys is too warm for them there. But Mark was a wonderful guy too, you know.
So he's the guy. He's the guy at the beginning of the film who says, "Practically a virgin."
Yeah, that was Mark Lewis. Yes, and he had those two girls in the movie. He supplied them, which I thought he was trying to be some sort of procurer, but actually the girls would give him a nickel and actually cost him money, you know. You know, I think he was an unsuccessful businessman. But he had 3 turkeys left when we had dinner at his house, but we didn't eat them. You know? And, oh my God, I mean, there's so many characters we met that there was actually one of the American actors or English actors who was supposed to be an oil engineer was actually living on the street and later on bunking at people's hotel rooms and everything, you know, so...
that was the weird fat guy with the pith hat.
Yeah.
In case you're wondering who he was.
The cops came around looking for him because he overstayed his visa by a year, and they were looking for him, you know. And Janet Wood went on to play the head. If anybody saw 6 Foot Under, she played the head of the competing funeral parlor, which, and she's not, you know, she's not rather long in tooth now. I haven't met her, but I didn't even know it was her till the credits came on. And Vicky Racimo lives in a very beautiful apartment. Last time I saw her on Central Park West and had a chauffeured Cadillac, so she's doing okay. You know, so she sort of she played a Vietnamese girl in many movies of the week, or an Indian girl, and I all gave them their shot of fame, you know. But listen, I discovered P.J. Souls in a movie which isn't too good, and she refuses to admit that she knows me who was in that movie. And the movie's really not that bad. So.
Well, I think maybe we have time for 1 or 2 more questions before we wrap up. Yes.
I have a question on the soundtrack for the movie. Could you comment on the choice of songs and so on?
Yeah, there's a question about the soundtrack on the movie, and I must say that hearing it in a cinema with a big system, the music sounded pretty good. Sounds much better than on just a little computer. Who arranged to get Eric to do the music?
Well, Elliot Chiprut did the movie. I think Victor Kurnevsky, the editor, arranged to have him do the movie. And Elliot Chiprut at that time was very big. He wrote, among the songs, when there was bubblegum music, he wrote, Simon Says, and 2 or 3 songs. I just looked up his bio for somebody else. And he was living in Brooklyn, and he was making a lot of money, because I just looked him up. He did have about 4 or 5 gold records, and he was a very talented musician. He did the whole thing in a session very cheaply with a couple of musicians, and actually he comes by once in a while because his career sort of died out, you know, and he's trying to revive it. He hasn't done anything in 10 or 20 years, but that's a very good score. Wits End, you know, I think we only paid him a couple of grand for that, you know. So.
Do we have a final question?
Why do you call the movie Wits End? Why not any other title? And what's so special about the title Wits End?
So how did you come up with the title Wits End?
That was not my title. That was the David Young title. And normally they change it, but the first distributor didn't change anything. I'm pretty sure that was the title on the David Young movie.
Yeah.
The Keith Lorenz script had some the Sultan of Johor or something on there.
Keith's script was called Keith's script was called No Visa for Singapore.
Oh, it was ever
No Visa for Singapore was the original title. Then David Young called it Wits End, and you guys stuck with that. And then it was Troma that retitled it GI Executioner.
And at one point it was also Dragon Lady.
Joe Green put it out as Dragon Lady. You know, they all sought to play on the Mysterious of the East and all that, you know. And that got a lot of theater plays, and he was cheating us. He just stupidly put the his accounting sheet in the envelope when he mailed us a statement, you know. So I was figuring out it wasn't real, you know. Anyway, we sued him and we got the picture of that.
Maybe ask why it was called Wits End. Did he know?
But do you know why it was called Wits End? How did that, what did that name?
Had no
Wits End was the original title.
Yeah, but
that
it doesn't seem to have any relation to the story.
I did not come up with that title. That was on David Young's script. And I think
Dave Dearborn
sums everything up.
Charlie Chern and Michelle and Walter Hoffman. They said the name of the movie was Wits End, which is not a bad title, but there's been songs and stuff like that, you know. But titles change, you know. When you go to a country, different countries, they say different things about the movie, you know. I had as much input in the editing. I stood here and edited. We could have edited it in Hong Kong, and we had problems with that, not having a color work print, you know. But it was just a film before its time. I'd like to go back to Singapore and make the true story of Singapore, you know. Not this Singaporean zombies. Zombies are very big. I got a call.
Can you ask Joel about his memoirs? Because he said he wants to write his memoirs.
So, have you made any progress writing your memoirs?
I'm writing my memoirs. I have to get a deal on it. I'm looking to, I have a publisher here, but he's not doing too well with a couple of my older books, which are on, Amazon, Kindle. And I republished a book called Outrage. That's what's your face. And I am writing my memoirs, which covers a whole lot of my adventures, you know, my relationship with some famous actresses, you know, my time. I live right in Times Square, and I said that I wasn't a priest by any chance, so I got involved with a lot of people and a lot of parties and stuff. So I'm working on that, and I'm working on. I have a couple more books to get out. I have one book set in Hong Kong, which maybe somebody would be interested. I had a lot of people interested in it. The market has changed here from, I used to be able to walk into Simon & Schuster or Random House and talk to somebody, and now you can't, they don't even want to talk to anybody anymore. And there's a lot of self-preservation going on. I'll send you my book about the Shanghai, the Chinese. the detective in China, you know, so who knows, there may be a future for me. I'm doing about 20 film shows this year. I get paid cash and I get $20 an autograph, so I still have a big following, you know. I can't date anybody that calls me up.
Now Marvin will give his autograph for no extra charge on top of the book.
Oh, he's gone.
It wasn't me.
Okay.
I was about to say I was looking forward to reading the book. Anyway, I think it's probably time to wrap up. So I'd like to thank our panelists, Martin Metz, Ben Slater, Joel Reed, wherever he is, and Marvin Farkas. And perhaps we'll give the last word to Marvin. Marvin, how does it feel to return to Singapore 43 years later and see all the attention that's been given to this film now after so long?
I was shocked.
Shocked.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you all.
I'd also like to thank the Arts Council again for the wonderful hosting of this event. Arts House. And also our distributors, Penn International, who've done a great job of getting the books here.
And where can we buy it in Singapore apart from here?
It's currently available also at Kinokuniya, and it will shortly, I believe within a week or so, be available at Times Newslink and other stores around Singapore. And it may be an eccentric film, but it did seem to attract some amazing characters, and there's a great sort of number of stories, as you've heard today, around the making of the film. So you can find some more of those in Marvin's book. And Marvin will be signing copies outside, so we can continue
no
the
extra
conversation.
charge. Sorry to undermine you, Joel.